Hey everyone, and thanks for coming to Zippia's Land to Job webinar series. My name is Chris Colmar, and I'm one of the co-founders of Zippia. This is our first in a monthly series of talks to help you through the job search process, all the way from resume optimization to negotiating your salary after an offer. I'll give you a little bit about Zippia before I pass on the presentation to Denise. So we founded the company about 6 years ago as a way to help professionals progress through their career. We have a database of several million resumes, and we can use that to provide examples of how real people have moved through their careers and kind of what skills they picked up along the way. Our goal at the end of the day is to help you make strong career decisions and get the job that you want. Thanks to all of you that submitted a question beforehand. We'll try to answer the most frequently asked questions during the talk. You can also feel free to ask questions in the Q&A feature. Denise will probably answer them towards the end in kind of one bunch, but feel free to ask them as we go. And so a little bit on Denise Pittler, who's with us today. Denise is the owner of Resume Interview Success. She has over 30 years of HR experience in a number of different industries. She's a certified professional resume writer and a certified digital branding specialist, with additional certifications in progress as a master resume writer, academy certified resume writer, and certified employment interview consultant. So she knows what she's talking about. And so with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Denise.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining. As Chris mentioned, my name is Denise Bittler. I'm the owner of Resume Interview Success. Today's topic is tips and tricks for writing a resume designed for ATS and for the human eye. So for our agenda today, we are going to be talking about who and what you're writing your resume for, general rules of resume writing, types of resumes, resume don'ts for the ATS system, resume don'ts in general, resume do's. We'll talk about keywords. You'll hear me use the word keywords quite a bit throughout the presentation. Tips to downplay things in your resume. Some people have things that they want to be able to downplay. So I have some tricks for that. I have some really cool formatting tricks to make your resume look visually appealing, but still work with the ATS system. Then we'll talk about some key takeaways and reminders. And then, as Chris mentioned, we will get into the Q&A. So for the first thing we're going to be talking about is who or what you're writing your resume for. So when you draft a resume, you're writing it for an applicant tracking system as well as the human eye. So whether it's a recruiter, hiring manager. So what is an applicant tracking system or ATS? So if you've been job hunting, I'm sure you've heard this applicant tracking system or ATS, and it can, bring fear into the hearts of many. An ATS system is essentially a software application that enables the digital handling of recruitment. So it helps a company to store and organize candidates, job-related data, making the tracking and monitoring different parts of the hiring process easier. So some common features of an ATS include the ability to post jobs online, the option to screen resumes, and the option to have pre-screen questions. It generates interview requests, creation of reports, and things like that. So there are over 60 ATS systems in the world. Some systems that you may have seen or had experience with include Oracle Talio, Connexa Brass Ring, JobVite, iSIMS, SAP SuccessFactors. An important thing to remember, according to Capterra, up to 3/4 of large companies use an applicant tracking system to automatically screen resumes for keywords. And according to Forbes, up to 3/4 of qualified applicants have been rejected by an ATS because the software couldn't read their resumes correctly. Okay, so once you get a resume past the ATS system, a recruiter will normally look at it. According to the latest studies, a recruiter spends approximately 7.5 seconds looking at your resume and making a decision whether to read the rest of the resume or place the resume in the no thank you pile. So this means that the top third of the first page of your resume needs to wow the recruiter. So it needs to help you stand out from other candidates, and it needs to incent the recruiter to want to keep reading. So there are many ways to do this by taking into account design, content, etc., all of which we will be discussing. Okay, so next we're going to be talking about some general rules of resume writing. First, we're going to talk about length. The general rule of thumb for the length of a resume is 1 page for students, recent grads, or those with pretty much 1 to 3 years experience. 2 pages for those with more than 3 years of experience. So there are some exceptions though to this rule. If you've had more than 3 jobs, whether it's co-ops, internships, part-time, full-time employment, your resume should probably be 2 pages, regardless of whether you're a student, recent graduate, or seasoned professional. Another one is if you've got 3 years of experience, but have only had 1 or 2 jobs during that time, a 1-page resume may be appropriate. If you're in a field that requires a lot of technical skills, you may end up with a 2-page resume because of all the relevant skills that you'll need to include. If you're applying for a job in academia or the sciences, you'll need an academic resume, which can be up to 15 pages. If you're applying for a federal government job, the federal resumes can run anywhere from 3 to probably 7 pages. One definite thing to remember is a page should never be less than 1/3 filled. So what that means is, say you filled a first page and you go and you've got maybe a quarter of the second page. You never want to have less than at least a third of that last page filled. If it's less than a third, you want to find ways to bring it back to 1 page, or if it went to 3 pages, bring it back to 2 pages. There's a number of ways that you can do this. You can do it by adjusting your margins, font style, font size, word spacings, and you can do it also by cleaning up the words on page 1. The second piece that goes with this is you never want to have orphan lines. And what that means is that if you've got a bullet on your resume and only 1, maybe 2 words carry over to a second line, either add more information or clean up that bullet to bring it back to 1 line. So you never want to have those orphan lines. Okay. Next, we're going to be talking about years of service. If you have more than 15 years of service, you're going to want to limit your resume to the last 15 years. This doesn't mean that you can't include relevant information from jobs prior to that, but you want to do this to try and avoid ageism. And so you limit your main resume to 15 pages, and then toward the end, before you would add your education, you can add an early career highlight section. This allows you to summarize key accomplishments from the positions held more than 15 years ago, but it doesn't age you. So if you've got these early career highlights, they don't know whether that means that you've shown 15 years and you've got 5 more or you've got 20 more. So again, it's a way to try and deal with ageism. Okay. Next is margins. In Word, the default is 1 inch. You never want to leave it at 1 inch. So you want to lower the margins to anywhere between 0.6 and 0.8. The biggest thing to remember, though, is you want those margins to be the same on all sides. Okay. So font style is what we're talking about next. So you can use one font style for the entire resume, or you can use 2 different font styles. So in this example, you see how we have the font for the heading is different than the actual body of the email. So in this case, I used Constantia 20-point bold, small caps for the name. This makes it stand out. The contact information, I used Constantia 12. But did not bold or caps because that can make it a little harder to read, especially when you have URLs. The heading, which is in this case, it's the transformational supplier management develop. Okay, that is that heading and any other subsequent headings, professional experience, early career highlights, education, those should all be consistent. And in this case, in this example, they're all Constantia 14-point bold small caps. Okay. If you have subheadings, which in this case, I'm sorry, sorry, the font sizes I wanted to mention. You don't want the main body of your resume to be the font size to be too large. I tend to stick to Calibri 10.5. If somebody doesn't have a lot of experience, or I need to make my second page go down a little lower, I may go to Calibri 11 or Calibri 11. So this is again where you can play around so that your layout looks right. This example here shows you the difference. So if you're doing Verdana, okay, Verdana tends to be bigger. So you may want to use 9.5 or 10 instead of 10.5. So play around with it, but make sure that whatever you're using for your headings, you're using the same font for the headings, and then the same font size for your subheadings and your content. Okay. So next we will talk about color. I mentioned that there are ways to really help things stand out in your resume, and one of them is by judiciously using color. So be careful though when you're picking the colors, that you want to pick a color that is going to be acceptable, not offensive to anyone. Safe colors to use on US resumes are shades of blue and shades of green. So on this chart, you can see what the different colors and shades denote. One neat thing to consider if you're going to use color is check out the RGB color for one of the colors in the brand logo for an employer you're applying to. This is especially helpful if you're applying in marketing, sales, things like that. Recruiters will notice if you are using a brand color that is specific, a color in your resume that is specific to one of the colors in their brand logo. Okay, the next section, next we'll talk about sections. So for the sections, the must-haves, you have to have a heading, which is your name and your contact information, your headline, your probably 2 or 3 key achievements or accomplishments, or 2 or 3 value proposition statements, and areas of expertise or core competencies. All right, so let me, oops, sorry, my apologies. So professional experience and education. There are some optional, but only if it's applicable to the job description and only if it adds value to your resume. And that could be awards and honors, volunteer work, certifications and licenses, projects. I usually only recommend projects for college students or recent graduates, especially if they don't have a lot of work experience. Extracurricular activities, again, usually only for current students and recent grads, and only if those extracurricular activities support the job that you're applying to. Publications, depending upon the number of publications, you can include it in the resume, or if you are going for an academic position or something like that, where you've got a lot of publications, you may want to add that as a resume addendum. And you can also add a languages section. Again, I would only include this if you think it would be a beneficial attribute for the position. Okay. So next we're going to talk about types of resumes. There are 3 general types of resumes: chronological, or combination, and functional. Okay. The most effective one is a chronological or combination. So for a chronological, so here's an example of a chronological. It literally goes, list your work and other experiences in reverse chronological order, meaning that most recent is at the top and the least recent is at the bottom. Okay. The next that we'll talk about is a functional resume. It's sometimes called a skills-based resume. This type of resume that you see here, it places a focus on the skills and area of expertise rather than the details of the work history. So in this example, you can see that it takes the skills, and then at the very bottom just lists the work history. Functional resumes are likely to cause a resume to not be scored in most ATS systems because it doesn't have context to align the job titles, the company name, and the dates. So the only time you really should consider using a functional resume is if you're presenting it directly to a human and not submitting it through a job board or a company website. Okay. My favorite is a combination. So what a combination resume does is it takes the best of the functional resumes. So it um, addresses those areas or that something about you that is your value proposition. So in this example, at the top, we've got Distinguished Director of IT Technology, Business Leader with Strategic Director. That is something similar to a functional resume. But we then get down into the professional experience where we have the actual jobs, the company, and the tenure, the dates for the job. This type of resume where you have your you're setting yourself apart with the functional pieces up top, and then you have the actual breakdown with company name and dates in the resume will read perfectly. It will read correctly and perfectly in an ATS system. Okay. Next, this is resume resume don'ts. Um, there are a lot of resume don'ts, so please definitely pay special attention to this this piece. First resume don't: no text boxes, no charts, no graphs. An ATS, the ATS systems will not read anything in a text box, in a chart, or in a graph. Now, if you want to include a chart, so say you're in sales and you want to be able to show that you grew your book of business or whatever the case may be, you can have your chart, but make sure that the important data from the chart is included as a bullet under the job. So, grew book of business from 2 million to 16 million in 5 years. So the chart is there for the visual purpose of to excite a human reader, but the information is in the bullet to make sure that the ATS system can also read it. Okay. Next, don't put information in a header on the first page. You have headers and footers. ATS cannot read information contained in headers and footers. So if you want to have, like, in a footer, page 1 and page 2, that's fine. If you want to have a header on the second page that just has your name instead of copying over what you've put at the top of your first page, that's fine because it doesn't need to read your name again. But just remember, anything that you do put in a header or footer will not be read by an ATS system. Okay. Next, no photos, graphics, or icons. ATS cannot read those. If it adds value to your resume, so again, you're a graphic designer or something like that, and you want to add a graphic for the human eye, that's fine. Just know that the ATS system won't read it, and be very conscious of the fact that you only have a limited amount of real estate on your resume to get everything in there. So if you're going to add graphics or icons or anything like that, make sure it's not taking away from valuable real estate that you need to actually sell your value proposition. Okay. Another thing is, don't include designations after your name in the heading. So as Chris mentioned, I'm CPRW certified and CDBS certified. So with my resume, if I wrote Denise Bittler, comma, CDBS, comma, oh my gosh, I forgot my other designation, but that ATS system will read everything after my name as part of my last name, which again can cause problems in the ATS system. So if you do have certifications like that, you can include it in your heading, your summary, your value proposition. You can have a certification section, but don't put it actually with your last name at the top of the resume. Next is ATS can misread data contained in columns. So avoid doing a column resume. On a lot of these uh, resume sites where they say you can download these templates and it looks like a really cool 2-column resume. The problem is it's not set up to be ATS compliant. Now, there is a workaround around this, and I'll actually talk about it a little later on. But if you put in a column, or if you put in a table with more than one row, the ATS can misread what you put in. Next, don't include live links in the resume. If you do have live links, it's fine to have live links for your email and for your LinkedIn profile, but do not include information in the body, so in any of your bullets, with live links, because this can cause ATS to have problems, and it can make what it fills in, what ATS has in their system, look really off. So if you do have live links for other things, put it in the cover letter. That's the best way to handle that. Okay. Another thing is a lot of people are starting to use Canva and other design software and to create their resumes because they want to make them, look wow and everything. The problem is if you upload a resume created in Canva or another graphic design software, it's going to upload as a PDF. And unless that company is using one of the newer ATS systems that can somehow read and parse data in a PDF, it's not going to be able to read your resume. So as a general rule of thumb, try and create it in Word whenever possible. You do also want to save a copy of that Word as a PDF so that if you're emailing your resume to somebody, you want to send it as a PDF, because if they have a different Word version than you, it can make it look funny. So again, rule of thumb, when applying online, upload Word unless it tells you otherwise. When emailing or sending it to somebody, use a PDF. Okay. Extra space. So sometimes people will try and put extra space between letters to expand the text to make it look fuller, make the sentence not to look too short. The problem with this is an ATS will read that extra space that you've put in as an actual space. So instead of it being DENISE, it's going to read D space, E space, and etc. So don't make sure that if you're trying to expand your text to take up room, that you don't do it where it's adding extra space between the characters. Okay. As I mentioned, Word templates for applying online. And then the last, PDF when applying. Some people will only put a year instead of month year for jobs. This can cause a problem in ATS because ATS will assign a date of 1/1. It doesn't just leave it blank and show the year. It will assign a date of 1/1, and that can confuse the system, especially if you've had more than one job in a year, because it's going to make it look like you had concurrent jobs, which affects your scoring. Okay. So next, resume don'ts in general. I'm sorry, I just had to share this little meme. I thought it was the funniest thing after the 2020 year that we all had. So there's a gap in your resume. What were you doing in 2020? And the applicant said, I was washing my hands. So I just thought I'd share that, put a little humor in here. All right, so resume don'ts. First thing is your address. You don't, when you're doing your heading, you don't want to include your full address, just city and state. Regarding education, again, this kind of gets back to not aging yourself. Don't include your education graduation dates unless it's been in the past 5 years. If you have more than one diploma, like a bachelor's and a master's, only include graduation dates if they both occurred within the past 10 years. It is perfectly acceptable to not include your graduation date or dates on the resume. Just be consistent. Don't put it for one and not for the other. You don't want to include your graduation GPA unless the job posting is requiring it. You can, however, indicate honors, cum laude, magna cum laude. Talked about keywords before. You don't want to keyword stuff when you're doing your resume. What this means is, it's very important to build keywords from the job posting into your resume, but just don't drop those keywords into key skills section. So anything you're listing in that key skills section should be included within achievement bullets throughout the resume. Right? Next, don't steal the job description. Some people will literally copy and paste the bullets from the job description into their resume. You don't want to do that. You do want to include keywords or phrases, but make sure you're personalizing them to your specific achievements. So don't just copy and paste from the job posting. Don't include obvious skills. So everybody assumes you know how to use Microsoft Word and the internet. So use your valuable resume space to highlight skills that actually make you stand out. Volunteer work. So if you're listing volunteer work, do not include work with controversial organizations. So volunteer work can be very personal. You may be volunteering for an organization that's important to you, but may turn someone else off because of their beliefs or ideas. So think seriously of whether adding that volunteer work really does add anything to your value proposition for the position that you're applying to. And then last, don't use an objective statement. Objective statements are so yesterday. If you're a recent graduate, for the heading, you could include something like aspiring and colon, and then the job position or positions you're looking for. If you're making a major career change, you can include a heading talking about your leadership or skills such as career focus, job position or positions you're looking for, or skills that relate to that position you're applying to, such as strategic leader with extensive international experience. So you're selling your value proposition right at the top. You're telling them who you are, not an objective statement, but telling them who you are, what value you bring, and that helps them want to read more in your resume. Okay. Resume dues. So for resume dues, some key things to remember. Your resume heading should always include your name on the first line and then the following information on line 2. So it's your city, city and state, not your full address, your email address. A quick reminder for anybody on this call who may be older. If you have a Hotmail, Comcast, AOL, MSN, ATT, Yahoo, or some other, I'll call it antiquated email address, create a professional sounding Gmail account and use that for your resume, cover letter, job boards, etc. Those other ones, the Hotmail one, they can really age you. So again, trying to get away from ageism and age proofing your resume, set up a professional sounding Gmail account. Okay. Next is your telephone number. A lot of people will put parentheses. The rule of thumb right now is just doing formatted as, XXX-XXX, without the parentheses, right? You also want to include your LinkedIn profile URL. One thing to think about, a lot of people have the LinkedIn profile URL default, which has a bunch of numbers and stuff at the end of it. Customize your LinkedIn profile URL and make it something that has your name and makes sense, takes up less space, and shows that you've actually put the work in and customized it. Okay? If you have a personal website, some programmers have GitHub sites. Some marketing people may have a personal portfolio site. If you have a personal website that contains information related to the job you're applying to or shows projects to support the position you're applying to, you can include that personal website URL in the heading as well. Okay. So next, as I mentioned, the professional headings or professional summary. So instead of saying professional summary, you can use a heading that stands out. So you can include some impressive descriptors, senior IT strategist, operations leader, infrastructure director, or strategic and accomplished bilingual operations leader. Right. Under that heading, You can add a 2 or 3 line statement summary of your personal brand and your value proposition or what you bring to the table. All right. So if you are including a value proposition statement, like the senior IT strategist example, let me get to this one. Okay. So these three things, distinguished director and whatnot, those are your value proposition statements. If you're including your value proposition statement, you want to limit any sentences that you include up here to 1 to 3 sentences. So if in this example, we've got one statement, trusted senior IT leader, because we're spelling it out more in the 3 value proposition statements. Okay. Next, you're going to get into your areas of expertise. Make sure that whatever you include in your statement summary and your value propositions, your statement summary and your areas of expertise are included in the bullets throughout where you're sharing your achievements throughout the job listings. Next is present tense. I'm sorry, I think I went too far. My apologies. Verbs and adjectives. So when you're doing this, what we say is sell, don't tell. So you want to use strong verbs and adjectives, quantify whenever possible, avoid common or overused adjectives such as successful or significant. So at the bottom of the screen, you see here, an ineffective statement, savvy negotiator with verifiable results, structuring and negotiating. Okay. It doesn't tell you anything. It sounds like everybody else. A more effective way to say it is savvy negotiator, optimized management of $38 million plus in assets, structuring and negotiating. So you're giving that that value proposition. You're using strong verbs and adjectives. Okay. Next is the present tense versus past tense. Present tense versus past tense. Current job should be in the present tense. Previous job should be written in past tense. The only difference there is if you did a major project under your current job and it was a large project, but it was a one-time thing, it's not part of your ongoing responsibilities, it is okay to use a past tense verb to describe that project. But in general, your current job should all be present tense. Okay, next, active first person voice. Resumes should be written in the first person. Now, it's kind of an understood, I did this. You want to make sure that you avoid words like be, we call them be verbs. Am, is, are, was, were. You want to write in the first person, not the third person. So it's an assumed first person, I, instead of a third person pronoun, he, she. So in an example, first person would be cultivate long-term relationships. Third person would be cultivates, like he or she cultivates, as opposed to I cultivate. Here's an example of using the first person and using strong verbs and quantifiable information. So if you just said sales increased, profits grew, waste decreased, well, that's fine. That doesn't say that you had anything to do with it. Better way is increase sales 12%, improve profits 23%, cut waste 15%. So speak in the first person and use very effective verbs. Okay. Next is include quantifiable achievements whenever possible. So that would be, for example, oops. My apologies, my computer's not having fun. So quantifiable achievements can be, you can quantify based on dollars or percent cost savings or cost avoidance. You can also include time savings or time avoidance. In this example, you can see that the client had dollar cost savings, percent cost avoidance, percent response rate reduction. Ideas on things to quantify are money, people, time, and rankings. Okay. Next is do not include soft skills. You don't want to include soft skills such as communication, teamwork, leadership, etc. If those skills are addressed in the job description, you do, and especially if they're listed multiple times, you do want to include them, but you want to include them in context. Don't list them in your key skills. Weave them into your weave those soft skills into your position bullet points. Okay. Last but not least, proofread, proofread, proofread. If you have errors in your resume, you could be the best person for the job, but if you have errors in your resume, it's going to go in the no pile. So you need to proofread it, walk away from it, come back, proofread it, have somebody else proofread it. You don't want to start off on the wrong foot and hurt your chances before anybody even gets a chance to really know you or your skills. Okay. Next, I talked about keywords. So what are keywords? Keywords are short words or phrases that relate to a particular requirements of a job. So here you can see as a job posting, and I have highlighted what I believe are key skills to work into the resume. The skills, there's skills, abilities, credentials, qualities, traits that a hiring manager is looking for in a candidate. So how do you identify these keywords? This is something that as you do it more and more, you will get more used to it. Some rules of thumb include pick words or phrases that appear multiple times in a job posting. You want to highlight those words or phrases in the job posting so that you can reference them when you're building your resume. An easy way to do this to see, how many times something comes up or whatnot is to create a word cloud. There is a site called TagCrowd that you can create a free word cloud. So you just copy and paste the job description into the text source box in TagCrowd, and it will create a custom word cloud. Words that appear larger in the word cloud have been used multiple times and should be considered for inclusion in your resume. Okay. You can also pick words or phrases that are common to the job you're applying to. Easiest way to do this is gather multiple job postings for the same title from different companies and compare what skills, behavior, job requirements, etc., appear in multiple job postings. You can also use some of the key resume keyword sites like JobScan and SkillSyncer. You need to be very careful though with these because they sometimes take things from the job posting that are specific to the company and not the position. And this can make your match score appear lower than it really is on those sites. Okay. An important call out regarding keywords and the ATS system. ATS systems are looking for exact matches. What that means is that if the job posting says community-based with a hyphen and your resume shows community-based as 2 words, no hyphen, it won't be a match in the ATS system. This comes into play. Job postings include something like a plural. So say it says enrollment events and your resume has that skill, but as a singular enrollment event without the S, it will not be a match in the ATS system. So make sure that when you're doing the keywords and phrases that you are doing them to match exactly. Okay. Let's see. ATS systems prioritize hard skills over soft skills. So you want to concentrate on the hard skill keywords in your resume. So if soft skills are mentioned in the job posting, especially if they're mentioned more than once, you can build them into the bullets in your resume as long as you're tying them into a hard skill. Okay. And let's see, keyword reminders. When incorporating keywords and phrases, you don't want to just drop them in key skills. You don't want to keyword dump. For every skill listed in your key skills section, you want to make sure that you have a bullet or statement somewhere in your resume where you explain how you used that key skill. Okay. So again, here's an example where I took the keywords from that job posting and I built them into the functions within each of the jobs that this person has done. I made sure that the keywords matched exactly so that the ATS system will score them appropriately. Okay. Tips to downplay things on your resume. So we've talked about a couple things. As mentioned earlier, you can downplay your age by limiting your job to 10 to 15 years experience, and then including a key, an early career highlight section. Again, don't forget to update those Gmail addresses to, or update to a Gmail address. Okay. Next, multiple short tenure jobs. So if you have, my apologies here, if you have multiple short tenure jobs, so you've only worked in, you've worked here a year, you used here a year, here 6 months. Most resumes you'll see they justify the dates of service. It'll put them over to the right. In these examples, in this example, you'll see we brought the years of service or the dates of service over to the left, right past the title. This takes away because if it's over to the right, your eye is going to be drawn to it. If it's brought in with the next to the title, it's less obvious. Okay. Career gaps. So career gaps, you can address one of two ways. You can move the employment dates like we just talked about for the short tenure, and or you can include activities that you did while you were unemployed. So this can include part-time or temporary work, volunteer work, training, schools, anything that you are putting in there. Though, make sure that you are explaining it and including bullets that speak to the position and how what you learned or did during those things while you were officially unemployed will help you be of value to the company. Okay. So next is career transitions. So if you are if you are building a resume and you're looking to change careers or industries, you want to downplay any industry specific. So let me get to this. Any industry specific words, phrases, terminology, abbreviations related to the industry you're leaving. So for example, if you're currently in property and casualty insurance sales and you're looking to expand into non-insurance sales, you can say grew product line instead of grew book of business. So then you are not you're not using terminology that is specific to the industry that you're trying to get out of. All right, so cool formatting tricks. This is kind of my favorite part. So as I mentioned earlier, ATS does not read text boxes or charts or tables, and columns can be misread. So like having something differentiated by a text box or table could really make a resume stand out. But since you can't do a text box, you can use color or some other type of shading to draw the reader's eye. So for example, and it's actually very easy to do. You can go to shading to make something appear as if it's in a text box. Just use your cursor to select the word or lines to display, click on design, then page borders and shading, and select the color that you want to use. Okay, so see if you see at the bottom, this is what it looks like when I did that. It looks like a text box, but it's not a text box. So it will be read correctly by the ATS system. Okay, you can also use borders to make something look like it is in a text box. And the way you do this again is use the cursor to select the word or words or text, click on design, then page borders, then select the color you want, the width. I suggest 2¼ points for the width of the lines. And then click on the preview section for each side of the that you want to encapsulate. And at the bottom, this is what it would look like. Again, it looks like a text box with borders, but it's actually just using the border feature. Next, you can use a multi-column one-row table to display skills in a way that makes it look like an actual table. The way this works is you just use your cursor to select the I'm sorry, my apologies. You just click on insert table, insert the number of columns. I usually limit it to 3 and 1 row, then click OK. Right. You start typing your content in that first column, hit enter to add an additional line in the first column. So this is a multi-column one row table. As long as it is 1 row, an ATS system will read this correctly. So you just keep hitting enter until you're done your first column, move over to your second column, type it, keep hitting enter till you're done. Now you have the whole thing. Now you can make this look more creative. You can use a creative bullet. If you're going to do a creative bullet or a regular bullet and you're using color in your resume, I suggest setting the bullet or the arrow color to be the same color that you're using in the resume. Okay. If you're using this trick for the skills section, I'd recommend removing the border around the table cells because it can look too busy. So if you remove, you can just click on the little plus sign and then, I'm sorry, you can click on the plus sign at the top left and then right click on the border icon that drops down and just select the icon for no borders. This is how it would look afterwards, which looks a lot cleaner. Okay. Another cool formatting trick is to use color and bolding to make accomplishments stand out. So if you remember back on that one example I showed you, this is a client, he had a lot of quantifiable achievements. So to make that stand out, each of those quantifiable achievements is in the color that we used for the whole resume, our color base, and it's highlighted. So if someone is reading this, so instead of having, a whole bunch of bullets and everything kind of running together, somebody looking at this, their eye is going to immediately be drawn to the bolded colored area. That is going to make them then go back and want to read that bullet. So that's a great way to do it. All right, there. You can use a 2-column one-row table to create an entire resume that will look like a really cool 2-column resume. This is not for beginners, trust me. All right, so with this, it looks like a really cool 2-column resume. If this was done as a true, just regular 2-column resume, the ATS system would not read it in any coherent way. So the ATS system wants to see your name and contact information first, your summary and key achievements section second, skills and that type of thing. If this is a true 2-column resume, the ATS may not read the information in this way. So it may go from column 1, then it's going to jump over to column 2. So you may have things intermixed. If that is the case, the ATS system may not parse your information correctly into the correct fields in the ATS system. So if you go into Word, they have the templates, they have resume templates. This is one of their resume templates. If you just use that resume template, it's going to be a true 2-column, which can cause issues. Once you get better and more comfortable at this, I removed the columns and I started from scratch and created a 1-row 2-column table and just kept typing. all through down onto a second page, went back and just selected areas and did the border shading and wanted to make it look like text boxes. So again, this is a lot more complicated. So unless you're really an expert in Word, you may want to avoid that one if possible. Okay, you can use a 2-column, 1-row table to create the entire resume. Again, stay away from it. It's not for beginners. So some key takeaways and reminders. Customize your resume for every position you're applying to. Never apply for a job on a job board with a stored resume. You only have 7.5 seconds to grab a reader's attention. You're creating a resume for 2 readers, the human and the ATS. Include quantifiable results whenever possible. No more than 2 different font styles, 2 different colors. No columns, charts, text boxes, live links, photos, graphics, or icons. Include keywords or phrases appropriately in context, and proofread, proofread, proofread. I know this went long. I apologize immensely. So Chris, are there any specific questions?
If anyone has any questions, you can type them in the Q&A box down at the bottom or just in the chat. We had one pop up during the talk, was asking about the colors for resume and how you find the brand color exactly. How would you go about finding the brand color?
So the easiest way to do that is just type in the company name and type in brand logo brand color. And there are sites out there and it'll come up and it'll give you the RGB code. It's 3 different, it's the red, green, blue, I think,
yeah.
codes. And in Word, when you go in to pick a color, you can go to the tab in that color piece that lets you customize, and you can type in those 3 codes in that RGB, and that will give you that exact color.
Yeah, do you have more? So the next question was just kind of, I guess, generally on ageism. So you mentioned a couple of things like not putting your graduation date, only limiting the first 15 years. I guess.
Can I just,
Yeah,
so this person just asked, so they have a working history where they have a long-term employer that puts them back to more than 15 years.
There you go. Yep.
There, in those things, if you've had different positions within that company, you don't have to show every single position. So you can kind of hide the total tenure by bringing that over, and then only show positions within the past 15 years with the dates out to the side. And then you can include the accomplishments from prior to that, because that when you do that early career highlights, you're not writing the company. So they don't know if it's that same company or a different company. So just break it down by title within the company is a good way to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So just if anybody wants to see some really good information and whatnot, on my website, which is www.resume-interviewsuccess.com, there are a number of tabs that contain a lot of free, really good information. So one of the things I talked about was action verbs and power adjectives. There are documents for both of those that give you, instead of saying leading or led, here are other words you can use. Instead of created, it could be strategized, or it could be spearheaded. So those documents have great words that you can use, more impactful words. There's a lot of information in there with interview skills and resume 101 and everything. As see a question come up about part-time jobs on a resume. I would only include them if you had a thing where you didn't have full-time employment. So if you had a part-time job while you were working full-time, unless that part-time job adds specific value to what you're applying to, I wouldn't include it. Students with little or no experience, Again, that gets into, it could be clubs, it could be projects, depending upon what your major is. If you're, say, in programming or something like that, get out on GitHub, set up a GitHub site, work projects. If you're in marketing or something like that, create and set up a personal website where you can do projects and have things out there. You need to be able to have a way to showcase your skills that don't involve an actual job. You can also include a section on relevant courses. So if you've taken courses that are relevant to the position you're applying to, you can add a section called relevant courses and put the course names. If the course name is a little ambiguous, you may want to do it as course name dash and then some, how that relates to the position you're applying to. Sorry. Yes, you do need to tweak your resume each time. And so there's one of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is when you create your resume, you create what I call a customizable resume. So when I create resumes for my clients, it's a customizable resume, and then I actually teach them how to customize it. So they'll send me 2 or 3 job postings. I'll take one of the job postings, I go through, I highlight the keywords, I then tweak or customize their resume using Word. I track the changes to bring those keywords into the resume. I share that with my client. Then for the next 2 jobs my client applies to, they take their job posting, they go through, highlight their keywords, they update or customize the resume, doing the track changes, and they send it to me. I review it, we go over it. So in answer to your question, it is an advantage of using a professional resume writer if they are teaching you how to tweak your resume. A professional resume writer, having them do it to build your value proposition and set your personal brand is great, but you do need to also learn how to customize the resume and the cover letter going forward.
We had a question on the in the Q&A guy. If you have multiple positions at the same company, should you add dates for each role within that company?
Yes. Now, my caveat there is, if those roles are very similar, they're just a progression type thing, you don't want to be repeating the same activities, achievements under each of them. So say you were promoted from, I was in benefits for years. So you were promoted from benefits analyst to benefits manager to benefits director. Some of the things are going to be the same. Some of them aren't going to be the same. So if your achievements and whatnot are fairly similar between those progressions, what you may want to do is ABC company and then list, your most recent title and the dates, the next most recent title and the dates, and then bullets under each of them. So I'm just trying to get back here so I can show you one of the clients that I had here. So this, if you look on the screen, he had progression titles. They were very similar in what he accomplished. So instead of separating them as his 2 different titles, put both titles together and then put the quantifiable accomplishments that occurred between the 2. Does that, hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I think the last question we have here is about 2-column resumes in general.
Yes.
So I based on what you said and what I've read in the past too, I would just use not use a 2-column resume. Be my general advice. Is that your high level advice? Like, if possible, don't use a 2-column resume.
Yes, unless, oh God, I'm sorry, it keeps disappearing.
That's fine.
So yes, unless you're working with someone who is experienced in how to create what looks like a 2-column resume in a way that will be read by ATS, I'd say stay away from it, just because depending upon the ATS system, depending upon how the company that you're applying to has set up their ATS system, it may read fine, it may not. And if the ATS system doesn't read it correctly, it will not parse things into the correct fields, and it will negatively impact your scoring in the ATS system. So there are other ways to make it have things stand out. Again, some of the things that we talked about. But if you are absolutely want to have a multi-column resume, use a professional.
Well, thank you very much, Denise. We'll make a recording of this available in probably a week or so. And if you want to get in contact with Denise, her email address and website were on the webinar earlier. You can also just reply to the invitation and we'll forward you to Denise directly if you want.
Yep. And you can request a free consult by going onto my website and just clicking on the book service free consult button. And I'll be happy to talk to you, see where you're at and what your needs are and whether it would be a right fit for us to work together.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Denise. We appreciate you taking the time today. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice day.